When Keith asked me to speak today, I said, all right, I'll speak if you'll give me a topic. He suggested maybe a testimony, and I said, oh no, my life is not exciting enough nor inspirational enough. Oh my goodness, look who I see in the audience. How did you know I was doing this, guys? I had no idea. Oh my goodness. My children. Anyway, let me think where I was. I said, I will speak, but if you give me a topic, well, why are you going to do a testimony? He said, well, speak about what you have a passion about. I thought, a passion? I have a lot of passions, but I don't know that they're worthy of speaking on Ladies' Day. I love to work in the yard. I love to cook. Charlene said, are you going to speak about cooking? I love to read good novels. There are a lot of things I love doing, but neither are they inspirational enough to speak on Ladies' Day. So it presented a problem, and I thought about it quite a bit. I thought, no, there is something I have a passion about. It's accomplishing little things. We are so very grateful in our country, in our community, and right here in our church to have great leaders. They work tirelessly, they dream big, and they give generously. They're giants, and all of us volunteer, and all of us benefit from their volunteering. And sometimes, well, I know I'm not one of these leaders, and sometimes I feel very guilty because of the way I think. I'm soothing my conscience probably, I'm rationalizing maybe, and because the way I look at things, and because I've never aspired to be one of these leaders. But then I like to think that little things matter too. Some years ago, and a lot of you will remember this, we had a program right here in our church that was called Candy Stripers. High school students, young girls, participated in this program. I don't even know really who was in charge of it. I kind of think it was Mert Radney and Jean Motes, but I might be wrong. And it was some 35-ish years ago. And they were absolutely adorable. They had the little white uniforms and the pink or red and white striped pinafore sort of topping that went on it, and little caps. They would just brighten your spirits just to see them walk down the hall. Well, they were trained to do some kind of medical, not real medical procedure assistance, but some kind of procedure that would help the patients. Maybe it was reading to them. Maybe it was writing their letters. Maybe it was doing their fingernails, delivering flowers, rearranging flowers. I don't know exactly what they did, but what they did was with a lot of sincerity and a lot of effort. Well, when they reached a certain stage in their development of this program, we had what we called a pinning ceremony. And they'd reached this designation where they were entitled to get a pin. And we had a service right here in the church called a pinning ceremony. Well, Dr. Layman Motes delivered the message. And I remember that message so well. He just made these girls feel like they had done a tremendous service. Outstanding. The patients benefited. The hospital benefited. Everybody benefited by what these girls did. He made them feel like they were walking on air when they were listening to him. And then Dr. Motes made a statement that took me aback. And this statement has rattled around in my head for all these 35-ish years. What he said was, these girls didn't do great. They didn't do magnificent. They didn't even do spectacular. What they did was good. And then he went on to talk about the benefits of doing good. Well, these girls started walking on air again. They were just really pumped up by the way he made them feel about doing good. And that is so beneficial, and everybody benefits by others doing good. We have a lot of opportunities right here in Sumter County to do a lot of good. I could give you a list of service organizations a page long, and all of them are for good opportunities for you and for the beneficiaries of these services. But just two or three that come to mind. One of them is the Harvest of Hope Food Pantry. You're familiar with it. We save bags. At Thanksgiving, we collect food for it. But it's a year-round program that is federally funded, along with a lot of other local donations, and it serves something over 1,000 families right here in Sumter County. Every month, some 700 families come to participate and get food from this food pantry. It is operated by a couple, Sonny and Ginger Pinkard. They're not paid, they're all volunteer, but they're 24/7. I mean, it is their life's work to man this food pantry. But they can't do it by themselves. They have to have some 80 volunteers every month to carry out this program. And these volunteers are doing good. Not great like Sonny and Ginger are doing, but they're doing good. Another opportunity we have is the Faith Clinic. I know very little about it because it is manned by doctors, nurses, PAs, and other people in the medical profession. Twice a week, it is open for people who have no means of medical aid except to go down and get this service free. Pharmaceutical companies give drugs for it, other medical equipment. Maybe it's not great like building a big hospital or building a huge medical center or curing cancer or curing diabetes. That would be magnificent. That would be spectacular. But these doctors and nurses right here on a local level are changing lives and helping the medical condition of the patients. And that's good. Another thing we have that is operated through our ministerial association is the Community Services Ministry. I hope you're familiar with it because Rusty's in charge of it, and he's probably hit some of you over the head to volunteer, but they're always needing volunteers. It's open 2 mornings a week, and it's designed to help the people that are just before going off the cliff, about to reach the edge. Maybe they've gotten their notice that the electricity is being turned off, or that their water is being cut off, or maybe that they're being evicted from their residence, or maybe they need they would need prescriptions that they don't have enough money for. Now they have to come up with some money, but this medical association this Christian Ministries services gives them a portion of the money they need to keep from going homeless. We have terrific leaders right here in this church. We have great leaders. Think about what Valerie just pulled off for Night to Shine. Oh my goodness, that was up there at spectacular. She had a steering committee that was pretty spectacular too. When you think of the food that Gay Shepherd put together for hundreds of people, and it was beautiful food. And you think of the decorating committee that made this church look like an awesome party place. And we had the logistics committee, the transportation committee, the safety committee. All of these committees were wonderful. But even the steering committee couldn't have pulled off a night like that. We had hundreds of volunteers working, contributing, and that was good. Our missions committee, our Operation Christmas Child, the shoebox ministry, Denise can't pull that off by herself. JoAnna Arnold can't pull it off by herself. They have people working under them in the background doing good. And look at our kitchen. Oh my goodness, do we have a lot of food that we participate in this church. Some years ago, Dr. Jim Dudley lived next door, and his wife Freddie one day called me and said, "JoAnn, I do know that you Baptists are the eatingest people I've ever known in my life. She said, every time I turn around, you're having another eating meeting. And she was right. A lot of fellowship revolves around food. And Mert does a wonderful job with that, and her hostess committee. But Mert can't do it alone. She has a lot of people doing good, helping her. And at Christmas, you saw how beautifully this sanctuary was decorated. It was over the top. Malcolm couldn't do it by himself. Paula McDonald helped a lot. And there were other people sprinkling in, doing a lot of good, especially the youth. And we look at what Ruth Copel and Marianne Parks do for every occasion in the church, all over the church. They're decorating and making it beautiful. But these few people alone can't do it. They have committees helping them, doing good. Jackson Street Ministry, Jane can't do it by herself, but she's changing lives. She's helping with homework. She's helping with discipline, teaching manners. She's introducing children to Christ, people that wouldn't have it any other way. But Jane can't do it alone. She has a lot of people helping her doing good. And then we look at Sunday school and Vacation Bible School. Oh my goodness, the volunteers that have to help there. And I am so guilty. I need to do better. But we appreciate all of those who do so many services in our church. Last week I saw an ad in the paper that caught my eye. It was a teacher recruitment ad. Had a little caption over the top that said, "One does not have to be famous to be unforgettable." One does not have to be famous to be unforgettable. And I thought, gee, that kind of fits in with what I'm trying to say. The little ones can matter too. Teachers are terrifically important. Oh my goodness, what would we do without teachers that mold children's lives, put them on the right direction for life? But they're mentors also, volunteering on a one-to-one basis. These mentors do so much good. Maybe it's not great like president of Harvard University or Princeton, or a chancellor of a university system, but mentors do so much good. We have a little framed statement in one of our rooms in our house by Betty Frisor. It's just a little statement she made that I hope people see when they come to visit us. It says, "Live in such a way so that when you are gone, it will matter." Live so that when you are gone, it will have mattered. Now, my grandchildren are sitting back there, which I had no idea they were coming today, some of them. And I tried to instill in them a motto once we went on a family vacation, and I tried to instill in them a little motto that I wanted for a family motto. I don't know if it's sunk into their heads, but I hope one day it'll recall and mean a lot. And that is, leave a place better than you find it. Well, the exception to that would be a restaurant and a hotel. I don't think they'll ever leave a restaurant and a hotel better than they find it. But anything else, I want to be a better place because they walked there. Maybe it's just picking up trash on the street. Maybe it's pulling a weed out of a flower bed. Or as the little boys know, sometimes it's picking up pine cones in the yard. Straightening furniture in a room. Maybe put the chairs back in place. Nothing profound, but just leave it better than you find it. And I hope that becomes a lifelong motto for them. All the things that I've tried to say in a nutshell has to do with deeds. Deeds are the fruits of Christian faith. And I think that sometimes, well, I know that sometimes the best deeds we can do are the ones that cannot be repaid. No one can repay you for some things, just like night to shine. Those guests will never have a way to repay the committees that made their night so special. It can't be done. And those are the best deeds when nobody can pay you back. Another thing about deeds that's important to me is that they're done in secret. The best deeds are done in secret so that nobody knows about these deeds except you and God. Your parents don't have to know. Your children don't have to know. Your friends nor your spouses have to know. It's simply between you and God. And that's when the greatest reward is there. Some years ago, when Ed was teaching Sunday school, I'd have to pop into the church all during the week to either put literature in class, our Sunday school room, or pick up literature, or it was a drop-off station. I was in and out of the church all the time in the middle of the week, running in the Sunday school room. Well, one day, 3 different times, I found Joyce Abel in there working. Most of you remember Joyce. One day she was cleaning out a cabinet. It was filled with old trashy stuff, empty boxes, out-of-date literature, and she was in there cleaning that out. Another day I popped in and she was putting up a bulletin board and cleaning the chalkboard. Another day she had furniture polished and she was polishing all the wooden furniture in the Sunday school class. Nobody was supposed to know she was in there. She had no idea she was going to get caught. Her deeds were between her and God. And no telling how many other deeds she did that she didn't get caught. But I have a feeling that today Joyce is really enjoying her rewards because she earned them. And in closing, I want to present you with a challenge, and myself. Up here in the very top echelon would be great, magnificent, spectacular. Somewhere way on down below is mediocrity. Don't want you to go below mediocrity now. But between greatness and mediocrity, find where you are. Find the space that you're located in and move it up a notch, because little things matter too.
Well, you all know that I teach high school, and as a teacher, I try to train my students or my scholars to be prepared and to, be fearless when they stand up and not be nervous. And I'm looking at Tori and the countless Spanish conversations I put her through, and it's coming back to me right now. I noticed Miss JoAnna with her eloquent speech and one little note card, and I have my papers. I have a death grip on them, by the way. But what I'm here to do today is to share my story with you. And when I told my sister that I was going to be speaking, she said, "Nobody wants to hear your stories." And I was speechless and I was hurt. And then I realized, you don't need to hear my story. What I pray today is that you hear God. You hear what He's done. You hear about His grace, and you hear how He continues to work in me or in this church, in your lives. I want you to feel Jesus here today, because when Jesus is here, where 2 or more are gathered in His name, then there He is also. I have a card that says fearless. That's what it's about, being fearless in obedience. When I was 14 years old, I came across the psalm that was read earlier. And a friend had suffered a terrible motorcycle accident, and I was searching in the Bible. I was looking for some words of encouragement, something to inspire me, and I came across, "The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears, and delivers them out of all their troubles. The Lord is near the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." These words spoke to me over and over again as I began my walk, my Christian walk. And do you know what righteousness means? It means simply doing what God says is right. So at 17, I began a college career. Now, what my parents were thinking sending me off to school at 17, but that's what it was. So I envisioned this righteous life of serving him on the mission field, wherever he would send me. I was studying French, and I was making plans, but I was learning that I could not serve two masters. So during my first semester of my first year in college, I made some really bad decisions. And on one night, my life was forever changed. And I was attacked, and I was crushed, and my spirit was broken, and all I could do was cry out to my Lord. That was all I could do, and I went to Psalm 34 over and over again because I was ashamed, and I was embarrassed, and I was living in fear, and I was thinking, how can I hide this fear from everyone around me? Because I didn't know and I didn't understand about spiritual battles, and that's where I was. And I was walking it alone, and I was crying out to God. I was turning to him, Psalm 34, searching for answers. And we all know in Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you. We've all heard that. And God was present in my life, and he was giving me a love that could cast out all fear. And I was desperately holding on to that, but I couldn't get back to the plan God had for me. I began to think it was necessary to work to earn his blessings, that I just needed to do better. And so I had a whole lot of pain in my life, and I was hiding that pain, but I was also keeping it inside. I went to church, and I went to school, and I was going to do all of these things to do better, and I kept working at being a better person. And I was exhausted because I thought if I worked harder and I did just a little bit better, then I would be worthy of God's blessings. The church that I would go to when I was in college, I would walk in and there were all these people, and they were raising their hands worshiping Christ. Do y'all know why people raise their hands when they worship? Because they are so happy that Christ is right there with them, inside of them, and they're raising their hands, and they are just so happy. And I thought, I want that. Why can't I have that? God, why can't I have that? God had given me my love of French language, and I recognized my call to missions, and I said, I'm not worthy. I can't do this. So I started negotiating with God. Have you ever done that before? I wanted a life I could manage. I wanted a husband, and I wanted a family, and how about a job where I might be able to train people to be missionaries one day? I could teach French, and I could train missionaries. And over again, I turned down these opportunities to learn Spanish, and I would say, God, I can't put any more words in my head. I've got enough going on. So I gave God half of what he asked me. But y'all, we serve an unbelievably gracious God. And he is merciful, and he is wonderful. And he didn't say, nope, not good enough. He never said that. So what happens to any good college girl trying to plan her life? I met a guy. And that was Thomas and his wonderful family, a prestigious family, and he told me what I craved to hear, that I was good enough for him, that I could be a partner in his life of politics and parties and all these possibilities in front of us. He became my best friend and my first husband, and when he told me he loved me, I believed him, but I was naive about love, and I did not understand. He was giving me all the love he could give me. But I just thought I knew, and I thought I had it all figured out. And it did not matter that he drank too much, because I could be good enough for the both of us. And it didn't matter if he spent or gambled our money, because I could work harder and I could earn more. We had a beautiful little girl that would go to church with me, so when he didn't want to go, it was okay. It was fine. There were many happy moments during these 6 years of marriage, but there were some terrible moments also. I'm sure people saw what was happening, and they thought, oh, well, you chose him. You knew what you were getting. So this is the life you deserve. And I kept it a secret from everybody. My sister didn't know, my parents didn't know, my close friends did not know how we were suffering together through alcoholism, because it was together we were suffering. Because you can't hide that destruction forever. And shame was my constant companion. I could manipulate our conversations. I could manipulate his guilt, and I could say, why can't you quit? Why don't you stop? We have a little girl, it's me. what am I doing wrong? What can I do better? But we were not looking together at God. And my marriage became a marriage of grief and loss and what ifs, and I'll try harder. And you know, if you ask, ladies, if you ask a man what's wrong, they're going to give you a list, okay? And so I got the list. My cooking wasn't good enough, that kind of thing, And I have to admit that with certain, I have to be honest, when I think back to my newlywed self, guys, there's this vision of me standing in front of the oven, and I had decided to warm up some hush puppies in a styrofoam container. And so I'm standing there, and I open up the oven, and those hush puppies were just sitting on the rack. And I looked to my right, and I looked to my left. I thought somebody was playing a trick on me. I didn't understand. But there those hush puppies were. There are common problems in marriage, and there were things about laundry and cleaning the house and all of that. And I did. I believed all of that stuff. And so I was back where I was before. My soul, my spirit crushed. And in 1998, January, I saw the minister out in Birmingham, and I told him, I said, no, you can't tell anybody. I got to talk to you. These things are going on. And he began to pray, and he opened up the Bible, and this is what he said to me. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and he delivered me from all of my fears. Those who looked to him were radiant. Their faces were not ashamed. The poor man cried out, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. That pastor did not know that those words were important to me, but Jesus knew those words were important to me, and that is the day that I met Jesus. That is the day I looked at him, and couldn't see my shame, and I couldn't see all of the things, my faults. I couldn't see my sadness. I didn't see those things when I looked at Christ. Did not mean that my problems went away. It just meant that I was no longer carrying them by myself. And I might have stayed with him forever, but our problems became public. And on New Year's Eve 1999, he asked me for a divorce. I read 2 weeks ago that in our bulletin about Max Lucado, it was talking about grace, and it says that grace is the voice that calls us to change and then gives us the power to pull it off. So I listened to God, and he told me it was okay to let Thomas leave on that New Year's Day morning because he had found someone else. He'd found someone else who could let him be who he wanted to be. But do not feel sorry for me because I got to find out exactly who I could be. I couldn't save him, and I couldn't save myself. And at 29, I packed up that green minivan, and I moved to Americas. God surrounded me with the best people. And I had to move in with my parents. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation right there, 29, living with parents. But he surrounded me with women who understood divorce, and women who understood suffering, women who helped me find my voice. And if I was bitter, they didn't judge me. But there were women who taught me to stand with the armor of God. And at this point in my life, God says, hey, you are going to learn Spanish? And you know what I said? I said, okay. Sí, señor. And let me say this about the minivan because I couldn't get rid of it fast enough. It was a reminder. It was a reminder of my continued plan, my lost plan, that I was going to have more kids with Thomas. But really, truth, no man was going to look at me again in a minivan. I was not going to find anybody else. So I got rid of it. And y'all know the rest of the story. You know about Bob and Dallas and Elise and Ella. You know about my beautiful America's life. I think Bob would probably say that my cooking abilities might have improved a little bit, but I don't know. I don't think he minds too much. But I hope I stay in God's will and that I continue to look at Christ with Bob. And you should all know that I met Bob 1 week after I sold the minivan. Now, I want a life on the mission field, and Bob knows this. You all know this. You know this, that a mission field is a place that is filled with countless opportunities to share God's God's love. I teach French and I teach Spanish, and you can't talk me out of it. Katie Davis said, Kisses for Katie was from her book, I'm only doing what I love doing and what God, who gave his life for me, asked me to do. So when Christ asked now, he said, are you willing to be offered up? Are you willing to be a drop in the bucket? Are you willing to be insignificant to the world? Am I going to insist that I still choose the scenery of my sacrifice? Am I going to do what God's asking me to do? And will I be fearless? Will I be fearless in obedience? Because what will it cost? It will cost everything that's not of God. And I never want to miss being in his will again. I don't want to give him half when he gave all. I want to do what I was created to do. That's what I want for you guys. I want you to do what you were created to do. And I'm not going to stand up here and tell you I mess it up all the time. It's still incredibly hard for me. I do not have this all worked out because, let's face it, sin makes a person stupid. And all these years later, I'm trying to prove myself in French, Spanish, and in English. And if I pause for affirmation from the outside world, I give the devil his chance. Someone, a friend, a family member, a student, a stranger will say something to me, and I start to doubt myself, and I let all of those ugly lies back into my head, thinking that I'm not good enough to do the will of Christ. I don't want to ruin friendships, and I don't want to ruin relationships. But guys, I want to be right where God wants me. And I open myself up every time I'm right back where I started, messing it up. I say, God, I look to him. Nothing satisfies my soul like doing what God asks of me. John 10:10 reminds us that God says, the thief comes to steal and kill and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. So have the peace of God, ladies. You're not failures. I'm not a failure. That's not what it takes. Pleasing God is turning to him over again and over again. Ron Hall wrote a beautiful book called What Difference Do It Make? And this is a story about a homeless man named Denver Moore. And he's explaining to Ron Hall about serving Christ. And this is what he says. Jesus sent his disciples out, John, Mark, Nathaniel, and then went straight into the villages. Needy people don't need no perfect people neither. When Jesus sent his disciples out, he sent Peter. Peter had a bad temper and a potty mouth. He sent James and John, even though they were full of pride, fighting over the best seat at the table. He even sent Judas. Even though Jesus knew all their sin and all of their weaknesses, he sent them anyway. Jesus knows my sin, and he knows my weakness. Oh, Jesus knows about my jealousy and my insecurities. Jesus knows about my pride and my temper. He even knows about my gossiping and sometimes potty mouth. And he loves me with a perfect love anyway. And he will always ask me to surrender my pain and choose grace. I will keep praying and I will keep listening. I will keep traveling. And it looks like I'm going to be teaching high school a little while longer too, because I want to go to the ends of the earth for him, and I want to encourage you to go to the ends of the earth. Just as God instructed Ezekiel, he instructs us. Get up and don't be afraid to know who you are. Go out into the world, speak the truth, tell of his greatness wherever he sends you. And I want to close, finishing up here, with the lyrics to a song by Travis Cottrell. And I could sing it to you, but you really wouldn't enjoy it so much, so I'm just going to say it. I come broken to be mended. I come wounded to be healed. I come desperate to be rescued. And I come empty to be filled. I come guilty to be pardoned through the blood of Christ the Lamb. And I am welcomed with open arms. Praise God, just as I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne and JoAnna. Both of them have challenged us just do. God has given you a gift, an ability, so just do it. And see, all of that working together is His church. That's who we are. And so thank you, ladies, for doing that, and ladies, for leading us in worship today. I couldn't imagine a church without our ladies. We just couldn't do it. And so I'm thankful for you. Our hymn of invitation is 544, Have Thine Own Way, and what a significant response to the challenge that Joanne and JoAnna gave us. Just, Lord, have your way in my heart. So would you stand, and if the Lord is leading you that you would like to tell us about that, would you come and respond? 544 as we sing.